All right. Good morning. My name is Sandro Burgos, hearing officer for San Francisco Public Works. Clinton Otwell is the clerk of this hearing. This hearing is being recorded via Zoom and will be available afterwards uh, through a link on the San Francisco Public Works website, sfpublicworks.org. As this is a virtual hearing, there is no sign-in sheet. So if you would like to receive information about the results of this hearing, please send an email to the email address listed on the hearing notice. This public hearing is being held to consider two items. Order number 300160, to consider the intent to legislate a utility underground project along Homestead Street between 24th Street and 25th Street. Order number and order number 300174, to consider the intent to legislate a major encroachment permit in the general area bounded by Howard Street, Tahama Street, Clementina Street, and Folsom Street between 1st and 2nd Streets. My job as the hearing officer is to gather the facts for the hearing, listen to your testimonies, and help our Director of Public Works make a determination. I will not be making any decisions today. Instead, I will forward the findings from this hearing and make my recommendations to the Director. The Director will make the final determinations. When the Director's determinations are made, the Department will notify you of them if you have provided contact information. The hearing will proceed as follows for the two cases. I will ask Public Works staff to speak first and present the case. There is no time limit for this presentation. Then, I'll allow the property owner or appellant or applicant to speak. Then, any member of the public or witness who would like to speak. Each speaker will have up to 3 minutes to speak. The clerk will monitor the time for all speakers and will indicate when the speaker has 30 seconds left. If you are a party to this proceeding, I will call on you to speak. If you would like to use visual materials in your presentation, please let me know before you speak. You will then have the standard 3 minutes to provide your comments. If you are a member of the public or witness who wants to speak, wait for me to call for public comments. Then use Zoom's raise your hand feature if you're on a computer to put yourself in the queue to speak. If you are dialing in on your phone, dial *9 to indicate you are raising your hand. When it is your turn to speak, I will recognize you. If on your phone and you're muted, press *6 to unmute yourself. If you would like to use visual materials in your presentation, please let me know before you speak. You will then have the standard 3 minutes to provide your comments. Comments and questions should be addressed to me and not to the department or the applicant. If you cannot finish your comments within the allotted time, you may submit written testimony to me by the end of this hearing. If I feel that a question is warranted, I will ask the question. After all comments are completed, I will close the item. We will now begin the hearing. At this time, we will open up the hearing to public comments. Members of the public may make comments on the matters that are within the department's jurisdiction, but not on today's agenda. Are there any public comments at this time?
We do have one hand up. James Owens, go ahead and unmute. Free to speak.
I just unmuted. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, James Owens here. I'm not sure if by public you mean homeowners within the proposed assessment district. I just wanted to introduce myself. My name is James Owens. My wife and I own 21 Homestead. Very quickly, while in theory we support what Mr. Bethel is trying to do with the undergrounding of the utilities, we have to oppose the.
Sorry, James, I have to cut you. Sorry, James, I have to cut you off there. If you're speaking on an item that's being heard today, we have a portion for that in that within that item. And right now it's just public comment for anything outside of those items.
Gotcha. Understood. Understood. Thanks.
Are there any general public comments about items not on today's agenda?
No comment.
All right, great. If there are no comments for this item, closing this item is now closed. We will move to the first item on today's agenda, order number 300160. May I have Public Works make its presentation?
You hear me? Oh. Hello.
We can hear you, Niall.
Okay. Hello, my name is Niall Simon, representing San Francisco Public Works in regards to this item. Thank you for your interest in this proceeding. In April of this year, Homestead Street resident Ernie Bethel informed Public Works that he and other residents along Homestead Street were interested in pursuing a property owner-funded utility undergrounding project. On May 9th, Mr. Bethel provided Public Works with signatures from 23 residents along both sides of Homestead Street in support of a property owner-funded project. These account for 60% of the residents along this block, which meets the minimum required threshold to proceed to today's Public Works hearing. While Public Works does not approve or deny utility underground projects, the purpose of this hearing is to allow Mr. Bethel the opportunity to present his Homestead Street undergrounding utility proposal to members of the public and to request that the Public Works hearing officer recommend that this project be considered by the San Francisco Board of Supervisors. Approval by the Board of Supervisors is required before property owner-funded undergrounding projects may proceed to construction. Members of the public are asked to wait until the end of Mr. Bethel's presentation to speak on behalf or against this project or to ask questions of Mr. Bethel. At this point, I'd like to invite Mr. Bethel to proceed with his presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Niall. Now we would move on to the applicant.
Which is Mr. Bethel. Go ahead and go ahead and speak. Do you have something to present?
Yes, I don't see the screen sharing option yet.
Okay, yeah, give me 1 second. We'll be promoting you to a panelist so you can present. Okay, you should be able to present now. Are you ready? We can see the screen. Well, we can't hear you. Mr. Bethel, are you there? We cannot hear you if you're speaking. We see the presentation though.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. And I'll go ahead and start the 3 minutes.
I'm sorry, I have 10 minutes according to Nihil's.
Oh, I'm sorry.
3 minutes is, yeah. Right?
Go.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. The applicants allowed 3 minutes, just like all the other public comments.
Nihil's notice said I had 10 minutes.
Which Hill's notice?
Nihil provided notice of this and indicated that I had 10 minutes. So I've written a 12-minute presentation. I provided the advanced remarks. I don't know how to cut it down to 3 minutes.
Clinton, do you have a copy of that? Go ahead and do your presentation. But I'll
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So there are 3 parts to my remarks. First, an orientation to reference Rule 20 reference materials, items 1 through 5. Second, a description of where we are in the process and what we're trying to accomplish. This part emphasizes the 1967-72 perspective on overhead power lines, and it emphasizes avoiding a 24% tax, which does not apply to projects determined to promote the general public interest. Third, I'll present the evidence that the project promotes the general public interest, particularly from my June 17th email. The CPUC website gives the history of Rule 20. In 1967, CPUC Rule 20 led in a few short years to adoption by San Francisco of Article 18, Section 900, which was signed in 1972. The ordinance includes a definition of undergrounding district, which requires all new facilities to be installed underground This is particularly important for Homestead Street because PG&E proposes to install new primary high voltage power lines on taller poles. We want PG&E to put the primary voltage underground. The CPUC's website describes variations on Rule 20. Rule 20B has both a unanimous consent version and an assessment district version. We're pursuing an assessment district. Assessment districts for undergrounding were authorized by legislation in 1966, even before Rule 20 was adopted. Rule 20 is different from Rule 20B is different from Rule 20A according to the California Public Utilities Commission, because general public interest is not a threshold requirement for proceeding. Instead, what general public interest garners is a tax exemption. It gets you a waiver of a 24% tax. PG&E calls this the federal income tax component of contribution. Rounding out part 1, here is the actual text of Rule 20. It's less than a page after 4 pages of description of Rule 20A. That takes us to part 2 in the DPW's undergrounding toolkit written by Bill Sanders. We've already gone through collecting signatures. We're at the DPW hearing, which will be followed by the Board of Supervisors approving a utility underground district, indicating intent to form an assessment district. An assessment district formation requires preparation of an detailed engineered cost estimate. We have not been able to get any detailed cost estimate from PG&E despite tendering $10,000 as an application fee. PG&E declined to provide an estimate and sent back the $10,000. Look, San Francisco has never had an assessment district formed under Rule 20B, so we looked for things that would provide the hearing officer with good guidance. One thing that we've provided is a compilation of 500 pages from Newport Beach, where they've done 124 assessment districts as of mid-2021. The other place we looked in San Francisco was under 20B for a non-assessment district, 20B unanimous consent project. Retired Deputy City Attorney Bill Sanders, whose name appears on the documents for this ordinance, was the one that helped us find it. Here's an example of what the result of this hearing is likely to look like, which shows the hearing having been conducted and the approval as being in the general public interest, eliminating a heavy concentration of overhead lines. Note that the DPW recommended creation of an underground district for 1 block of Ringgold Alley. It was based on general public interest to eliminate a heavy concentration of overhead lines. It did not require any finding of unduly heavy concentration over lines, just a heavy concentration. Similarly, the Board of Supervisors action identified a heavy concentration of overhead lines. The Board of Supervisors left open other grounds for finding general public interest as shown here, which takes me to part 3, which is the actual evidence of a heavy concentration of overhead lines. Because this was a 1967-1972 enactment, the CPUC followed by the Board of Supervisors, I looked for pictures from that time. I went to the public library and I found out that planning had taken 10,000 pictures of houses throughout the city in 1976. I looked for pictures of Homestead Street. The closest thing that I could find was Worth Street, which is another 1 block long street in Noe Valley that runs north-south just a little bit north of Homestead Street, nearby. This is what the street looked like in 1976. There were, at that point, there was only power lines, one telephone service, and one cable service. There were no internet services when the standard was set for what might be a heavy concentration. This is what it was before there were heavy concentrations of wires throughout San Francisco. The second place that we looked for an illustration of what was considered a heavy concentration of power lines was for the Ringgold Alley ordinance that I just showed you in the DPW hearing. We went back to Google Street View, and specifically to a few months after the adoption of the ordinance, and found this photograph of Ringgold Alley. This is what DPW determined to be a heavy concentration for purposes of that ordinance. Now, comparing that to Homestead Street, we have three photographs. This one is at the south end of the street at the pole at 85 Homestead Street. You see both a heavy concentration of lines and a butchering of the street tree. The lines you see in the photograph run both along the street and across the street. At 55 Homestead Street, the concentration of power lines is clearer because the power lines are separated from the trees. What a mess of communication lines there are on our poles. And similarly on 25 Homestead Street, on both of those poles, you see that the power lines stream out from the pole. A second ground, besides the pictures, is the fact that the CPUC determined that in 1920 that these poles could not hold even one more cable for AT&T or for Sonic. The poles were so heavily loaded that the additional carriers have not been able to provide Sonic or AT&T internet service on our block. The CPUC determination that the poles are too heavily loaded to accept even another cable should carry weight with the DPW.
Yep. 1 minute.
Part of the heavy concentration of overhead wires results from dead wires on the poles, where people haven't, where the different utilities, the communications utilities haven't gone back and cleaned up the mess. A further ground for general public interest is conflict with our street trees. PG&E has never been artistic about how it carves up street trees to accommodate lines. Further, for this tree in particular, and for the trees there in front of 63 Homestead Street, if high voltage power lines were put just one step above the lines that are there now, you would soon have a fire hazard. This particular tree fills in within 2 years after being cut back as dramatically as this. This isn't the first time it was cut back.
And that's your 10 minutes, sir.
Thank you very much. Do you have any questions?
This was in a question and answer session. It was a presentation on your behalf.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. At this time, are there any members of the public who wish to make comment on this item? Clinton, you're on mute.
Hi, this is James Owens. I'm sorry for speaking up earlier. I'll keep this as brief as possible. We're the owners, my wife and I, of 21 Homestead. It's at the bottom of the street. What you have to understand from the outside is that Homestead runs on a steep hill. and that the power lines affect one side of the street's view and not the others. So everything I'm about to say needs to be understood in that context. I'm sorry I didn't prepare a map diagram and all that for the committee to view, but lots of hills in San Francisco, lots of streets in San Francisco are like that, so I'm sure you can imagine. We support, in theory, the idea of undergrounding lines. We're not opposed to that in theory, to be clear. The problem with Mr. Beffel's effort is that he's trying to allocate costs evenly among all the neighbors on the street. And it makes no sense. This project has unequal benefits and uncertain costs. Regarding the unequal benefits, DPW's own manual calls for unequal contribution, different levels of contribution when scenic views, property values are affected differently. So do historical examples support that idea? And that's because the California Constitution requires it. Go ahead and view Article 13D, Section 4 on assessment districts. Secondly, we have no idea what the costs of this project are going to be. My wife and I don't make a ton of money. My wife essentially works in nonprofit. I was a prosecutor. Now I have my own criminal defense practice in its early stages. We can't afford to just absorb a whole bunch of costs. Even if that is spread out over 25 years, we understand that we need to have cost certainty or we're going to be priced out. And Mr. Bevel's petition that he sent out to everyone quoted a 20K figure, and his presentation in front of the committee today relies heavily on Newport Beach comps, which is where he got the 20K figure. The problem is that Newport Beach is not a good comp to our street. Newport Beach, yeah, is largely based around Balboa Island. I don't know if you've ever been to Balboa Island. Lovely. My wife and I fell in love there. Very different from Homestead. That is a flat island, a tourist destination. There are almost 1,000 homes on that island in a municipality who has done this for decades, as Mr. Beffel pointed out. That is not a reliable cost estimate. And what we're asking for is that costs are distributed according to benefit and that the neighbors who are going to be constrained by that have some sort of indication of what this is going to cost us before we support the measure. And since we don't have that, my wife and I are in opposition. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next we have, where did he go? Is it Renil? Go ahead and talk.
Can you hear me?
There you go. Yes, we can hear you.
All right. My name is Renil Bajoy. I am a legislative aide for Supervisor Mandelman, who is the supervisor representing District 8, in which this proposal lies. I wanted to state for the record that our office is generally in support of this proposal to underground utilities on Homestead Street. And to that end, we have introduced a resolution of intention by the board for undergrounding and expect it to pass within the next week. I want to also state that we shouldn't, get ahead of ourselves in terms of, what the action being decided here today actually is. I understand and I appreciate the concerns around, the uncertain cost, as Ernie and the speaker just now, I apologize, I'm forgetting your name, just mentioned. We don't yet know what the total cost will be. This is, however, is just about making a recommendation for the resolution of intention, which is the primary step before an assessment district can even be set up. An assessment district will come with its own hearing, and that by the time for that step to even happen, that cost estimate would have to be in place. So everyone would have a much clearer understanding of where the costs are, as well as how they're being allocated. And the method of those allocation of costs is a process, to my understanding, we've been speaking to the city attorneys pretty extensively about it, that is not purely black and white. The city has a way and would be able to negotiate that and, hear out the different residents' concerns if to the extent that there are concerns about how that cost is allocated. So I just want to conclude to say that our office is supportive of this effort, and this is a preliminary step and does not, mandate any sort of cost structure or anything like that. It is a preliminary step to set up, further investigation into this practice. Thank you.
Okay, and we have Linda Gross, and you may speak if you like.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I did submit a letter. I'm happy to read it out as well personally, if that is helpful. So I'll just go ahead. I've owned the property at 3032 Homestead Street since 1989, and over those last 3 decades, this area has transitioned from quite a sleepy family-based neighborhood to a really bustling and mixed family and professional neighborhood, with flexible and work-at-home professionals constituting a large part of the population. So I've witnessed a steady increase of overhead utility wiring on my street, in part due to supporting the changing needs of its inhabitants. The utility line density is likely to increase exponentially as increased demand for AI-related practices and electric vehicles grows. So I fully support the neighborhood's request to designate Homestead Street as an underground zone, and I second Ernie Beffel's email of June 1726, which I think summarizes very well our general neighborhood's concerned about existing power lines. But in addition, I'd like to draw your attention to the proximity of high voltage power lines to our homes. And this is a big concern at Homestead Street because it's located at the Twin Peaks end of Noe Valley, where especially forceful winds blow down into the valley on a daily basis, creating high potential for carrying sparks and fanning flames. So undergrounding wires, in my view, is a prudent and proactive action that the neighborhood is championing to avoid a heavy concentration of overhead utilities and reduced fire risk. This project would benefit not only our block on Homestead Street, but also the general public, opening the door for additional neighborhood sponsors, undergrounding, and government, private, public collaborations, which I very much support. On a personal note, like my neighbor James earlier, I'm a 67-year-old teacher of 28 years, and I would greatly appreciate the committee invoking IRS Section 1033 so that I and my neighbors do not incur a 24% tax burden. And as a reminder, the city will be reimbursed by the neighborhood for the cost of undergrounding after bearing the initial engineering cost to develop a reliable estimate. I would add that my property at 3032 Homestead Street is at the lower end of the street, and actually we don't have great views to begin with.
30 seconds.
But my concerns are really about the heavy electrical load and fire risks involved. Thank you.
Okay, I don't see any other hands raised. Oh, I do have one. 1 second. Go ahead. Go ahead, Nail. Niall, are you there? Your hand is
Sorry,
up. Oh,
I was still on mute.
okay.
Niall Simon, Public Works here. I do want to state for the record that we did receive over 13 emails, 10 of in support, and 3 opposing. But just for the sake of time, don't want to read through all of them, but just want to state that for the record.
Thank you. Okay, is there any other comment? If you're in the raise your hand if you would like to speak. At this time, we do not have any other comments, Sandro.
There's no more comments for this item. I'll close the item and make my recommendations to the director. The next item on today's agenda is hearing order number 300174. May I have Public Works make its presentation?
Dalton Hennessy, Public Works project manager. I'm going to share a presentation. So hopefully this all works. Right, there it is. So everyone should be seeing my screen with a PowerPoint presentation. Yes, hearing.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
and I'll go ahead and start now.
Okay, thank you. Again, my name is Colin Hennessy, Public Works Project Manager, here to talk about the Under-Ramps project and the proposed major encroachment permits for infrastructure that will be being proposed within the public right-of-way. So the Under-Ramp project is the conversion of spaces underneath the freeway off-ramps and the Transbay Terminal off-ramp, and it's highlighted here in the green area, but it's predominantly on Clementina Street between 1st and 2nd, and then between Howard and Folsom Street. It is to build a community benefit for the neighborhoods that are now living within the downtown area. Specifically, some of the ideas they're talking about is, again, greening, making community benefits. There's basketball courts, there's dog run parks. That's the overall purpose of the Under-Ramp Park project. They're also going to construct a bike path that goes north and south. Specifically to the major encroachment permits, there are some elements that are being proposed to be installed in the public right of way that will be privately maintained. Some of those elements include bollards. Similar examples are installed around the Transway Centre currently. More of these bollards are being proposed at different areas within the Under-Ramp Park project. They are proposing to install raised crosswalks, and we have an image of it here on Clementina Street between 1st and 2nd. There is also proposed decorative pavers and pavement, potentially non-standard bike racks. There's also a situation where some of the private utilities would also be installed crossing the street, because the private utilities want to install single meters at Folsom Street, and then the lines would run northerly across through the development site, meaning that they would be crossing within the public right of way, but they would be privately owned utilities that would be also maintained by the property owners. This is an example of Folsom Street, of where the granite pavers are being proposed. It was on the north side of the intersection between 1st and 2nd Street. In general, Public Works has been working with the Transbay Dry Powers Authority, with OCII, who are leading this project, to work through the various elements. We are working through a major encroachment permit agreement with TGPA to maintain these infrastructure that would be within the public right of way. Regarding noticing, I just want to do flag per Public Works Code 786, which would typically require physical mailings to the individuals who live within a radius of these sites. It was just too big and numerous given the number of people that live in this area. So the direction was to advertise this meeting via newspaper circulation. We also did some physical postings on site. OCII posted this meeting on the website, as well as the community benefit district that is located in this area. In general, we received 3 letters, communications from the public. One of them was in support of the project, and the other communications were requesting just more information about what is being proposed within the MEP. And that is all my information.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there an applicant that wishes to speak up on behalf of this project?
We have Mr. Walsh. Go ahead and speak if you like.
Good morning, everyone. Just the TJPA facility director here. Just want to say that we are in favor of this, of course, and we appreciate Public Works' time and efforts on all of this. Great presentation, Cahal, and thanks so much.
Thank you. Are there any members of the public who wish to make comment?
We have one other. It is the East Cut. Please, CBD, please unmute yourself and go ahead and let us know who you're speaking for at the East Cut CPD.
Everyone, my name is Mike Rieger. I'm the Deputy Director of the East Cut Community Benefit District. We are a property assessment district based in this location. We've been in operation since 2016. and it has always been a part of our management plan to operate and maintain this future park facility. So we have been working on it since the CBD formed. We've been in partnership with the Trans-Bay Joint Powers Authority and the Office of Community Investment and Infrastructure, and with San Francisco Public Works since they joined the team. We are obviously in support of this project as the future operator of the park, and we look forward to breaking ground on this important project for downtown. Thank you.
Okay, is anybody, do we have any other hands up? At this time, I do not see any hands up.
Great. So if there's no more comments for this item, I'll close this item and make my recommendations to the director. Moving on, are there any public comments on any of the items on the agenda? If you have spoken, you will not be allowed to speak again. This is for those who might have come in late or do not have a chance to speak. Right, so
And there are no comments, no hands raised.
great. So if there's no more public comments, I am closing this hearing. And this hearing is now closed. Thank you all.